fastest show in sports.
The National Hockey League is always going to be a niche sport. Let's just say that out loud. They're never going to be as big as baseball, football, basketball, soccer in this country. And I think Gary Bettman has basically decided that, okay, we have to live where we are, and let's just be the best we can at where we are right here. But what the National Hockey League does better than anybody else is the players. I mean, who these guys are. The Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup, and South Florida goes nuts. For those of you watching us on YouTube, I want to make sure to share this with you, because this is what you'll see in hockey that you won't see anyplace else. Brad Marchand riding a wave at a nightclub in Hollywood, Florida, with the Stanley Cup above his head. You will not see them do that in the NBA. They don't do it in baseball. They don't do it with the Lombardi Trophy. They don't do it with the World Cup Trophy. But this guy, they're out there partying with one of the most sacred trophies in the history of North American sports. It's what makes them special, is because these are bruisers and brawlers and beer drinkers and boozers, and they're the same kind of people that everybody loves. And if you take what they've done to the community, I mean, we're also watching here on the YouTube channel, this is some of the video of the people at the parade on the beach, which is amazing.
It's 90, what is it, 95? And they're celebrating the Stanley Cup Ice Hockey Championship.
It feels like it's about 145 degrees in the shade, and these people are going nuts because of what this team has done to this region. But more than anything else, Mike, it's the players. They're goofy, they're fun, they're hard partying. Like I said, they're boozers and brawlers. It's exactly what American sports wants. We want lots of fights, lots of the ability to get physical, and we want guys who'll show up and drink with us at 2 o'clock in the morning. Look, Alexander Barkov took the Stanley Cup to a neighbor's house at 5 o'clock in the morning, rang the doorbell. You saw the ring cam was there, and he said, "You want to come out and see the Stanley Cup?" 5 o'clock in the morning. You don't do that with any other sport. It's just brilliant.
No, and people that don't know the history of the trophy, there is only one Stanley Cup. There isn't one that they keep at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, and they just have this one around for play. No, they have a guy, I can't remember his name, but we met him in 2018 because he let my two little kids take a picture with the cup when the Capitals won it, and he just follows the cup around. That's his job. He follows the cup around, and because the tradition of the Stanley Cup is every player on the winning team that year has a day with it. The Stanley Cup has been to, Egypt. It's been to,
it's been everywhere.
A mosh pit with Brad Marchand, and it's been to all kinds of lakes on Canada. It's been to the Upper West Side in New York when Mark Messier had Rangers fans drinking out of it with him the day he took it to his neighborhood. This is the most, if it's not the most sacred trophy in sports, maybe the World Cup trophy is. It's the only one where there's one. There's no copy of it, and everybody's name's engraved on it. And so it's just a great story. You talk about what hockey has done and what a great celebration it is. It's almost every sport can lift you've seen civic moods change. I remember New Orleans after Katrina, the Saints, they lifted that city up. Michigan State basketball lifted Detroit up after awful times there. And there were and you see it time and time again. You don't want to make too much of sports, but you see, look, bottom line is the Panthers are a great team. I just have one thing to go on the out here before you talk about it, which is, I have a song, Ed. Oh, Canada, you suck at your own sport. You got your ass kicked again by somebody from South Florida. You suck, Sidney Crosby. All you Canuck jokes. Now, I feel bad for the Canadians. They just can't get over the hump.
You don't realize, but you just had a viral moment there. Geez, you should put together the whole song. I'll even go ahead and get the music for you one day.
All right, good. Next week.
Oh, God.
No, Friday.
But here's
Friday. I'll come up with the words.
Okay. The thing I'm always caught about, though, with hockey is it is exactly the sport that more people should be watching because it is a physical game. It's a fast game. but it's the fans and the players. There's no other sport in the world. Name one. I dare anybody. There's no other sport in the world where the players, after winning a championship, so want to share it with the fans in every way possible. I mean, from going to bars, going to strip clubs, going to fancy dress balls, going to people's homes, going to hospitals. I mean, Sam Bennett took the trophy, took the MVP trophy to the Humane Center in Broward County just to put the trophy there and have cats and dogs climb around it and get people to come out and help adopt from the Humane Society. You don't get this sort of down-home feel from any other player in any other sport.
No, you're right. I just, when you throw strip clubs and Humane Society into the same category that have been visited by the company, it tells you that, you need to travel with a lot of Lysol. I do not want a lap dance having been done over the cup and then putting champagne in it and drinking out of it. It's just gross.
Yeah, that's my only concern is because I've actually seen
it'll be great.
They've had a bowl full of pasta, a bowl full of chili. They've had soup. They've had clam chowder. Everything else in that cup. Are you kidding me? You better wash that damn thing at least 100 times before I eat anything.
Here's a great commercial for the NHL. This is where we could get in marketing business. Yeah, like before the start of next season, you just have this huge dishwasher built where you actually put in the Stanley Cup and put it in with whatever it is, Dawn or Ajax, whatever your little pod worth of laundry detergent or dishwashing detergent is, and just see it start washing it, and then you have highlights of where it's been.
The funny thing is, I wasn't this much of a hockey fan when I was younger. I mean, I was a hockey fan. I rooted for the Islanders when I lived in New York. And I was the only kid in Manhattan who rooted for the Islanders, so I got a lot of crap for that. But I've always been a hockey fan, but never until the last 10, 15 years, because covering sports and covering athletes and being involved in the nitty-gritty and the dirt and the nastiness that goes on and the money and the greed and the drugs and everything else that has gone on and the criminal element that's been involved. I latched on
all of
hockey.
that is in by the way, all of that is in hockey in several places.
They all have it. They all have it.
Right.
But from a hockey standpoint, there's less of it. And there's more of a family atmosphere. And there's more of a camaraderie that goes on. Marchand is one of the great stories in sports where he absolutely, completely, and totally despised several players on the Florida Panthers to the point of really wanting to get into a fist fight anytime, anywhere. He gets traded to the Panthers. There, he talks glowingly now of these guys. I love these guys. These are my teammates. Yeah. He's talking about coming back. He's 37 years of age. He's maybe got 2 years left. He wants to come back and play again in Florida with guys that he absolutely despised. But for whatever reason, hockey players, because they all kind of work in the same sort of social theater, if you will. The Canadian players know the other Canadian players. The Canadian players know the American players. They know them from college. They know them from a few years there. They know them from AAU teams. They know them from different... They all get along because they've all kind of created this family atmosphere. I don't want to wax too stupidly philosophical here.
No, but
they get along, and the fans feel it. There's a real love affair between the players and the fans.
They obviously have money, and they're they don't have money like NFL and
not
the
as
NBA
much
have
as the
money
rest.
in Major League Baseball, but I think that helps in some ways too, because like what I used to love when I was, and I'll tell you one day the story about how hockey, which I didn't know anything really about. Growing up in Northern California, my folks moved to Hawaii when I was 12, my stepmom and my dad. The only thing I knew about hockey was the Miracle on Ice, which I watched, and I was mesmerized. But hockey saved my career. Like, the New York Times offered me a freelance story. I had to pretend like I knew hockey, and I went to Canada and did a story on Pavel Bure of the... But anyway, I'll tell you the story one day. But bigger than that is, when I covered boxing back in the day, it was one of the few sports that still needed the print media to sell the fights. So the fighters were so ingratiating. The promoters they told you stories. I don't know if hockey realizes it needs the media like it does, or but the guys are so good to you. I remember every year the Caps would get knocked out before the Cup. I would do an annual story on the night they all got together after, that 2 days later after they lost and they were knocked out, whether they were favored or not. And they showed up either at some sushi restaurant in Georgetown or so, and they would have this male bonding moment where guys would talk about stuff, and the players just would like, I was a sponge because they would just, yeah, oh man, I was so sad we couldn't do it for backs and we can't do it, and all of a sudden, like, it was almost like they all had nicknames too, like Ovi, Baxi, like it was like
All of them.
it was like Sparky, Skipper, like they were all in the little
Yep.
league step, and you wanted to give them Dixie cups full of Kool-Aid, and it's like there was
Charlie
just still
McAvoy in
this
Boston
love
is Mac. Brad Marchand is Marshy. Jeremy
Marshy,
Swayman is
yeah, like it was-
Sway. I mean,
yeah, they all got
Pasternak
little,
is Costa.
they all got these
have it.
fun
But
nicknames.
you know what the difference though is between the athletes here, Mike, and God, I've seen this, and you've probably seen it too. In every sport, we hear about sources tell us what's going on in the locker room. Somebody tells us what's happening in the NFL locker rooms. You get a leak from an NBA locker room and something's going wrong. Major League Baseball, even soccer, golf, even it happens. In hockey, these guys never talk about anything that's disparaging of anybody in that locker room. It's all fun. It's all guys getting along. But that's the outstanding team
like a
element
code.
they have in hockey. It is really a closed society. They'll tell you stories about their families and having fun with the guys and scoring a goal and something. But what goes on in the culture of that
code.
locker room, never spit it out. Never.
Yeah,
Never.
well, that's one of the hard things about hockey too, is unless the player opens up to you about their own life, which is, I remember Donald Brashear, the old enforcer, like, gave me the story of his life, and I cried with him. But unless they give you that story, they're never going to give you the story about what happened in the locker room, because that's a code to them. That's their sanctuary.
Yep.
And once you establish that, sort of, it makes your job a little easier too, because it's like, okay, you don't want me to go there? Well, I got to talk to somebody in the organization. Oh, wait, somebody in the organization is not going to go there. All right, I'll focus on something else. But
they won't do it.
It's frustrating, but it is, that's hockey. So
there is no kiss and tell in hockey.
That's all, folks.